Kael stepped out of his small shuttle onto the glowing alien station, the metal under his boots humming with strange energy. Above him, stars twinkled, but the station itself seemed alive, walls shifting slightly as if breathing. He was alone at first, feeling the weight of silence pressing against him. Then, a soft shimmer appeared in the corner of his vision, and he froze, sensing something watching him. A figure emerged slowly from the shadows, skin glowing like silver, long hair floating slightly as if underwater, eyes shining like twin moons. Kael's heart raced. He had never seen anyone like her, and yet she moved with a confidence that demanded attention. She stopped a few feet away, tilting her head, a small smile playing on her lips. "Humans can't be active all the time, can they?" she said, her voice soft, almost teasing but carrying an edge of danger. Kael blinked, unsure if this was a test or a joke. I can keep up," he said cautiously, trying to hide his surprise. The alien beauty laughed lightly, a sound that echoed in the metal halls like music. "I doubt that," she said, taking a step closer, her eyes scanning him as if measuring his strength. "I am Lyra," she added, "and I dare you to prove yourself." Kael swallowed hard, feeling a mixture of fear and excitement. "Prove myself at what?" She moved gracefully to the nearest corridor, then glanced back. "Survive this station, keep up with me, or admit that your kind is weak." Kael followed her cautiously, noticing the walls were not just walls, they shifted slightly, creating new paths. The first challenge appeared without warning, a narrow corridor filled with spinning energy blades, glowing red. He hesitated for a moment, calculating the timing, then leaped forward, twisting to avoid a blade, landing on the floor with a thud. Lyra moved effortlessly beside him, almost gliding, her smile widening. "No, too bad, for a human," she said. Kael's chest heaved, muscles burning, but he felt a surge of determination. He would not fail. The station seemed alive, corridors folding and twisting, some leading to glowing pits, others to dead ends. Strange alien eyes glimmered from the shadows, watching silently, some curious, some dangerous. Lyra led him through the maze, sometimes stopping to test him further, setting new obstacles, and watching carefully. "Humans are fragile," she said, her voice low, almost a whisper. "But perhaps you are different." Kael gritted his teeth, ignoring the pain in his legs, the sweat on his face, every fiber of his body tense. He jumped over glowing barriers, ducked under swinging rods, and ran through hallways that seemed endless. Each step made him feel more alive, more aware of his limits, yet he pushed beyond them. Finally, they reached a platform above a glowing abyss, the light reflecting in Lyra's eyes, mesmerizing him. "Almost there," she said, her smile teasing. "Let's see if you can hold your strength when it matters most." Kael nodded, feeling a strange bond forming, not trust, but a challenge he could not ignore. He had come to prove something, not just to her, but to himself. And as the station shifted beneath his feet, he realized the real test was just beginning. Lyra's laughter echoed through the corridors, soft and thrilling, urging him forward. Every step, every jump, every choice mattered, and Kael knew that if he failed, there would be no second chance. The challenge had begun, and he had no choice but to follow, hearts pounding, senses sharp, ready for whatever came next. Kael stepped off the platform, heart still racing, as the alien station seemed to stretch endlessly before him. Corridors twisted and bent in ways that made no sense, walls glowing with soft alien light. Lyra moved ahead, always just out of reach, her silver skin shimmering, her eyes sparkling with challenge. "You think you can keep up, human?" she asked without turning, her voice echoing in the halls. Kael tightened his fists, muscles aching. "I won't stop," he said, determination burning inside him. The first corridor opened into a massive chamber, floor panels shifting unpredictably beneath his boots. He had to jump from one panel to another, timing each step perfectly, or risk falling into a pit of glowing energy. Lyra floated lightly over the panels, almost dancing, never missing a beat. Kael swallowed, forcing himself to focus, ignoring the trembling in his legs. Suddenly, a trap triggered, walls shooting out spinning blades. He ducked, rolled, and ran, barely avoiding the deadly obstacles. Lyra clapped softly from above, her smile wide. "Not bad, human. Not bad at all." Kael's breath came in short gasps, yet he didn't stop, the challenge pulling him forward. As he ran, The walls seemed to shift again, creating new paths, some leading to dead ends, others to narrow bridges suspended over glowing chasms. He had to move fast, making split-second decisions, his mind working as hard as his body. Lyra sometimes slowed, giving him a chance, sometimes vanished, forcing him to find the path alone. Kael realized she wasn't just testing his strength or speed, but his intelligence and courage. The station itself felt alive, corridors twisting like a labyrinth, lights flickering in rhythm with his heartbeat. Alien creatures appeared in the shadows, some watching silently, others moving closer with curious eyes. Kael dodged them, using his agility and quick thinking, each encounter pushing him to his limits. Lyra appeared suddenly, standing on a high ledge, looking down at him with amusement. "You are clever, human, but cleverness alone won't save you," she said, eyes glinting. He nodded, heart pounding, muscles screaming, but he pressed on, every step bringing a new danger. Suddenly, a floor panel dropped beneath him, revealing a deep pit of alien energy. He jumped, barely grabbing the edge, pulling himself up, adrenaline surging. Lyra's laughter echoed around him, soft but sharp, urging him to continue. Every room had a new obstacle, rotating walls, laser grids, floating platforms, and puzzles with alien symbols. Kael's mind raced, remembering each path, predicting each trap, learning the station's rhythm. Hours seemed to pass, yet the challenge never eased. Exhaustion pressing heavily on his body, he felt sweat stinging his eyes, muscles trembling, but he refused to stop. Lyra watched silently, her expression unreadable, sometimes approving, sometimes teasing. At last, they reached a massive chamber filled with floating orbs of energy, moving in intricate patterns. Lyra stepped closer to the edge, her voice soft. "This is where many fail, human. Will you?" Kael clenched his teeth, focused, and nodded, stepping forward into the unknown. The labyrinth had tested him physically, mentally, and emotionally, but he knew the true test was still ahead, and failure was not an option. With Lyra's eyes on him, he took a deep breath, preparing for whatever the station would throw next. Kael paused at the entrance of a narrow corridor, catching his breath. The station was quieter here, lights dimmer, walls smooth and cold. Lyra hovered a few steps ahead, her silver hair floating softly, her eyes gleaming with curiosity. "Not many humans reach this far," she said, her voice low but teasing. Kael wiped the sweat from his brow. I'm not like the others," he said, trying to sound confident. She smiled faintly, tilting her head. "We shall see," she whispered, stepping aside to reveal a hidden doorway. The door slid open slowly, revealing a room filled with floating objects, strange shapes, and glowing symbols. Kael's eyes widened, every artifact seemed alive, moving slightly as if reacting to his presence. He took a cautious step inside, feeling the air hum with energy, his senses alert. Lyra followed, her gaze sharp, studying him silently. "This is the chamber of choices," she said, voice echoing. "Everything here tests more than your strength." Kael looked around, noticing devices that pulsed, orbs that floated and spun, and crystals emitting soft lights. He realized that one wrong touch could trigger a trap, or worse, alert the alien guardians. Lyra moved to the center, picking up a small glowing orb, holding it between her fingers. "It's not enough to survive physically," she said, eyes on him. "You must understand, choose, and act wisely." Kael stepped closer, feeling a strange pull from the artifacts, as if they were alive, aware of him. He reached for a floating tablet, symbols shifting under his touch, rearranging themselves in patterns he didn't understand. Lyra observed quietly, her expression unreadable, lips slightly curved in amusement. Suddenly, the room shifted, walls rotating, platforms appearing and disappearing. Kael had to move fast, stepping on floating panels, ducking under hanging rods of light. His muscles screamed, his heart poo. Indeed, but he refused to hesitate. Each decision felt critical. Every wrong move could be fatal. Lyra floated alongside him effortlessly, guiding subtly, yet never touching his path. "You are clever," she said, "but cleverness alone will not win." Kael's mind raced, trying to decode the symbols, understand the floating devices, anticipate the room's shifts. A sudden gust of energy knocked him off balance, and he grabbed a glowing vine to steady himself. Lyra's eyes sparkled. "Adapt quickly, human, or the chamber will claim you." Kael gritted his teeth, focusing, Feeling the pressure, the stakes higher than ever, he moved faster, jumping from one panel to another, timing every step, every breath. Finally, he reached the center where Lyra stood, the orb she held glowing brighter as he approached. "It is yours to choose," she said softly. "Take it or turn back. Decide carefully, human." Kael extended his hand, fingers brushing the orb, feeling its energy pulse through him. The chamber seemed to react, lights swirling, walls adjusting, testing him further. Lyra watched silently. The challenge now more than physical, more than mental. It was a test of will. Kael felt a strange mix of fear and excitement, knowing this was the moment that could change everything. He held the orb tightly, determination burning in his chest, ready to face the next unknown. Kael followed Lyra into another chamber, larger than anything he had seen so far. The walls stretched upward endlessly, disappearing into shadows. Glowing vines and platforms hung in midair. The air was heavy, charged with strange energy that made his skin tingle. Lyra turned to him with a smile that was both gentle and cruel. "Now we test endurance, human. Can you last?" Kael's body ached, his muscles screamed, but he refused to show weakness. "I can," he said, voice steady though his breath was short. Lyra floated upward, her movements graceful, her body almost weightless. She looked down at him, silver hair glowing faintly. "Then climb," she whispered. Kael grabbed the first glowing vine. It pulsed beneath his hands as if alive. The climb was brutal. Every step upward felt heavier than the last. His arms trembled, his shoulders burned, sweat rolled down his face. The vines twisted suddenly, moving like snakes, trying to throw him off. Kael gritted his teeth, holding tight, forcing himself to focus. Above him, Lyra watched calmly, eyes gleaming with quiet challenge. "You are stubborn, human, but stubbornness fades when the body fails," she called. Kael pushed higher, legs kicking against the wall, using every ounce of strength. The platforms ahead shifted, sliding away when he tried to reach them. He had to time his jumps perfectly, leaping from one moving surface to another. His heart hammered in his chest, his arms shook with effort, but he refused to stop. Below, the abyss glowed with alien energy, a reminder of what waited if he failed. Kael leaped again, barely catching a swinging vine, his grip slipping. Lyra's voice floated down like a song. "Let go, human, you've proven enough." But he shook his head, jaw tight. "Not yet," he muttered. He pulled himself up again, ignoring the screaming pain, ignoring the fear. Every moment felt endless, every breath heavy. He climbed still, the vines lashed suddenly, energy pulsing through them, burning his skin. Kael cried out but didn't release his grip, his eyes fixed on the top. Lyra's expression changed, her teasing smile fading into something else. Curiosity, maybe even respect. "You truly won't stop," she whispered to herself. Kael's vision blurred, but he forced his body upward, one pull at a time. Finally, after what felt like hours, he reached the last platform. He rolled onto it, chest heaving, arms trembling violently, his entire body on fire. Lyra hovered beside him, watching silently, her silver eyes softer now. "You lasted," she said, voice almost gentle. "No human should have lasted this long." Kael sat up slowly, wiping blood from his palm. "I told you, I don't quit." For the first time, Lyra didn't laugh. She nodded slightly, her gaze unreadable. But in her eyes, a new light flickered, not just amusement, but something deeper. Kael realized this trial had changed something, not only in him, but in her. And though his body begged for rest, he knew the challenge was far from over. The station rumbled, walls shifting again, revealing a new path leading into deeper darkness. Lyra glanced at the passage, then back at him. "You're not done yet, human. The real trial still waits." Kael took a deep breath, steadying himself, his mind sharper than before, his will unbroken, and though exhaustion dragged at every part of him, he rose to his feet, ready to continue. Kael staggered into the new chamber, his muscles weak, his chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. The room was unlike the others, quiet and still, its walls covered in glowing alien symbols that shifted slowly like living patterns. Lyra stood at the center, her silver hair catching the light, her gaze fixed on him with unreadable intent. "You've proven your body can endure," she said softly, "but can your mind survive what comes next?" Kael straightened, wiping sweat from his face. "Try me," he said, voice hoarse but steady. Lyra raised her hand, and suddenly the symbols on the walls flared brightly. The floor beneath him shifted, transforming into a wide circle covered in runes. Kael blinked as the chamber around him dissolved into illusions, visions that felt real, yet unreal. He found himself standing in a forest, shadows stretching, voices whispering his name. Lyra's voice echoed all around. This is the labyrinth of the mind. Every thought is a door. Every fear is a trap. Kael's heart pounded. He turned, searching for her, but only saw endless trees. A shape appeared between the trunks, his younger self, eyes filled with doubt, whispering, "You'll fail. You'll break. You can't keep up." Kael clenched his fists, shaking his head. "No, I'm stronger now," he muttered, pushing forward. The vision shattered, trees melting into walls of fire, and voices cried out from the flames. He saw faces of humans he once knew, people he had lost, each one accusing him of being too weak. Kael's chest tightened, guilt clawing at him, but he forced himself to breathe. "They're not real," he said firmly. "They can't stop me." The fire died away, replaced by an endless ocean stretching under a stormy sky. Waves rose high, threatening to drag him under, and he saw Lyra's figure standing calmly on the surface. "Humans drown in their doubts," she said, her eyes piercing through the storm. "Show me you can rise." Kael stepped into the water, his body sinking, the weight of fear pulling him down. He kicked, struggled, heart racing, lungs burning, but still he fought upward. At last he broke the surface, gasping for air, pulling himself onto a floating platform. The storm faded, leaving silence, and Lyra appeared before him, her smile faint but approving. "You resist well," she said, "but there is one more." The world shifted again, and Kael suddenly stood before a mirror. In the reflection, he saw himself, tired, broken, ready to fall. The reflection smirked. "Why fight? Give in. Rest. You've done enough." Kael stared into his own weary eyes, the temptation heavy, the words almost sweet. But then he remembered Lyra's gaze, her endless challenge, and the pride burning inside him. He struck the mirror with his fist, shattering the reflection into pieces of light. The illusions vanished, the chamber returning to its quiet glow. Kael fell to his knees, panting, but alive, stronger in spirit than before. Lyra stepped forward, her expression softer than ever, silver eyes glowing warmly. "You are not like the others," she said quietly. "Most would have broken long before now." Kael lifted his head, exhausted but unyielding. "I told you, I don't quit." For a long moment, Lyra simply studied him, and in her gaze he saw something new, respect, perhaps even admiration. The chamber pulsed once, symbols dimming, and a hidden passage opened behind her. Lyra turned to the darkness beyond, then back to Kael. "The mind is strong, but will it guide you through what comes next?" Kael pulled himself to his feet, breath steady, determination burning brighter than pain, and without another word, he followed her into the unknown. Kael followed Lyra through the hidden passage, the air colder here, the glow of the walls dimmer. The silence was heavy, broken only by the sound of his boots against the floor. His body still ached from the trials, but his mind burned with questions. Why was she testing him? Why push him so far? What did she truly want? Lyra walked ahead, her silver form glowing faintly, her movements slower than before, as if she too felt the weight of this place. "This station has a heart," she said suddenly, her voice echoing. "Few ever reach it. Fewer still leave it." Kael frowned. "Why bring me here?" She glanced over her shoulder, her eyes glowing. "Because you have not broken yet, human, and the heart demands strength, endurance, and truth." The passage opened into a massive chamber, a dome stretching high above, walls covered in shifting patterns of light. At the center floated a core, pulsing with alien energy, glowing brighter than anything Kael had ever seen. It radiated power, humming like a living heartbeat, shaking the air around it. Kael took a step forward, his skin prickling, his chest heavy with the pressure. "What is it?" he whispered, unable to look away. Lyra's gaze hardened. "It is the mind of the station, the source of its tests. It is alive, and it chooses who is worthy." Kael clenched his fists. And if I'm not? Her smile returned, sharp and unreadable. Then it consumes you. The floor shifted suddenly, splitting into platforms around the glowing core, each one moving slowly like gears in a machine. Kael jumped onto the nearest platform, his legs trembling, his balance tested with every shift. The air grew heavier, pressing against him like invisible hands, forcing him to slow. Visions sparked in his mind again, flashes of fear and memory, but stronger than before. He saw his home, the people he lost, the battles he had failed, each one cutting deep. Kael gritted his teeth. No, not again, he muttered, pushing the images away. Lyra watched from a higher platform, her eyes never leaving him, her expression no longer playful but sharp with focus. The core pulsed brighter, sending waves of force through the chamber, nearly knocking him down. He staggered, clinging to the platform, breath ragged. Why test me like this? He shouted up at her. Lyra tilted her head, her silver hair glowing faintly. Because strength without purpose is nothing human. The heart must know who you are. Kael's chest burned, but he forced himself forward, leaping to another platform, catching it just as it slid away. The pressure grew heavier, his body screaming for rest, his mind torn between giving up and pressing on, but something inside him refused to stop, something more than pride, more than survival. He wanted to prove himself, not just to Lyra, not just to the station, but to the universe itself. Step by step, he pushed forward, eyes locked on the glowing core. At last, he reached the central platform, standing before the massive pulsing light. It loomed over him, endless and powerful, its energy washing over him like waves. Kael dropped to one knee, teeth clenched, fighting against the crushing weight. Lyra appeared beside him, floating gracefully, her silver eyes fixed on his. You still stand, she whispered, almost in awe. Perhaps you are the one. Kael forced a weak smile, sweat dripping down his face. Told you, I don't quit. The core pulsed once more, brighter than before, and the entire chamber shook. Something had been awakened, something waiting deep within the heart of the station, and Kael knew whatever came next, it would decide everything. The chamber trembled as the core pulsed brighter, the glow filling every corner like a rising sun. Kael shielded his eyes, but the light still burned through, forcing him to squint. The humming grew louder, deeper, until it felt like the whole station was alive, breathing, waiting. Lyra stood beside him, her usual calm now broken, her silver eyes wide, her lips parting in surprise. It awakens, she whispered, her voice trembling for the first time. Kael forced himself to stand, his legs unsteady. What's happening? Lyra turned her gaze to him, her expression sharp. You've done what no other human has. You've reached the heart, and now it answers you. The core split open slowly, revealing layers of glowing energy that twisted like storm clouds. Strange symbols appeared in the air, rotating, shifting, alive with power. Kael's chest tightened, the air around him thick, his body heavy as though gravity had doubled. Lyra stepped back slightly, eyes fixed on the core. It recognizes you, but it will not welcome you gently. It must decide. Kael clenched his fists, steadying his breath, then let it decide. The floor shook violently, platforms breaking apart, pieces floating upward into the air. Kael leapt onto one, balancing himself as the chamber turned into a storm of motion. From the core, streams of light shot outward, forming shapes. Creatures made of pure energy, their forms shifting like flames. They circled Kael, their eyes glowing, their presence crushing against his chest. One lunged, and Kael dodged, rolling across the platform, nearly falling into the abyss below. He rose quickly, heart pounding, every muscle screaming. Lyra called out, her voice strong again. This is the station's will. Survive it, and you will be chosen. Kael grabbed a loose shard of glowing crystal from the floor, wielding it like a blade. Another energy creature leapt, claws slashing. And Kael struck, the shard slicing through its body in a burst of sparks. But two more closed in, forcing him to spin, duck, and strike again. Each blow drained him, each movement heavier, but he refused to give up. The core pulsed again, stronger, and more creatures emerged, their forms larger, more dangerous. Kael staggered, panting, sweat burning his eyes, but deep inside his chest burned that same fire. The fire that refused to quit. He roared, swinging the crystal, striking one after another, refusing to fall. Lyra's eyes widened as she watched, her expression no longer mocking, no longer testing, but filled with awe. The creatures swirled around him, pressing harder, but Kael stood tall, battered but unyielding. The core pulsed one last time, sending a wave of force through the chamber, shattering the creatures into dust. Silence followed, heavy and deep, broken only by Kael's ragged breathing. The platform stilled, the chamber calming, and the core glowed softly, no longer hostile. Lyra stepped forward slowly, her silver gaze fixed on him. "You did it. The heart accepts you." Kael dropped the glowing shard, his hands trembling, his chest rising and falling. What does that mean?" Lyra's lips curved faintly, but there was no mockery now, only respect. "It means the station recognizes you as worthy, human. It means you are chosen." Kael stared at the core, still glowing like a living star, the weight of her words sinking into him. He had come here as a challenger, but now he felt something else, something greater pressing on him. The challenge was not over, but something far larger had begun. The chamber was still, the glowing core beating softly like a living heart. Kael stood on the platform, chest heaving, every muscle aching, yet his spirit burning brighter than ever. Lyra floated closer, her silver eyes fixed on him with an intensity he had not seen before. "You are chosen," she said again, her voice steady, almost reverent. Kael frowned, his throat dry. "Chosen for what?" The core pulsed once, and the air filled with shapes, visions of stars, planets, and great battles stretching across the galaxy. Kael blinked, overwhelmed, the images flashing like memories not his own. Lyra raised her hand, pointing at the visions. "This station was built long before my people walked the stars, by a race older than both of us. They left behind this trial, a way to seek the one who could endure." Kael's heart pounded as the visions shifted, showing humans, fragile compared to towering aliens, yet always fighting, always surviving. Lyra's voice softened. "I tested you because I did not believe. No human had ever reached this deep, but the core sees something in you, something I cannot deny." Kael staggered, shaking his head. "I'm just a man. Nothing special." Lyra stepped closer, her presence strong, her gaze sharp. "No, Kael, you are proof that humanity cannot be broken. You last where others fall. You rise when others give in." The core pulsed brighter, and Kael felt warmth spreading through his chest, as if the station itself had reached into him. For a moment he saw not just visions of war, but of peace, of humans standing beside alien races, rebuilding worlds, forging alliances. He gasped, gripping the edge of the platform. "Why me?" Lyra's expression softened, almost gentle. "Because you refused to quit, even when your body screamed, even when your mind fractured, you stood, and that is what the heart sought." Kael's breath trembled, his eyes fixed on hers. "And you? Why push me so far?" For the first time, Lyra looked away, her silver glow dimming. "Because I too was tested once and I failed. The heart rejected me, but it gave me one task, to find the one who would succeed where I could not." Silence hung between them, heavy and sharp. Kael's eyes widened. "So all of this, it wasn't just a game." She shook her head slowly. "No, human, it was destiny." The core pulsed again, louder, and the chamber shook as if the station itself were awakening further. Lyra's gaze returned to him, her eyes burning with something more than challenge now, something deeper. "The station will not let you go easily. There is still one final test, not of body, not of mind, but of choice," she whispered. Kael straightened, his exhaustion fading beneath a surge of resolve. "Then I'll face it." Lyra studied him for a long moment, then nodded, her voice low. "You remind me of what I once hoped to be." The visions in the air shifted again, showing a galaxy in chaos, wars burning, empires crumbling, and then a single figure standing firm at the center, unyielding. Kael felt the weight of it pressing down on him, heavy, terrifying, but also right. The path forward opened, a doorway of pure light forming at the edge of the chamber. Lyra gestured toward it, her voice barely a whisper now. "The heart has chosen you, Kael, but what it demands next will decide not only your fate, but mine. Kael took a deep breath, his hand trembling, his chest burning, and stepped toward the light. Kael stepped through the doorway of light, his vision blinding for a moment. When the brightness faded, he found himself in a vast chamber unlike any before. The walls stretched endlessly, made of shifting energy, alive and watching. At the center stood a pedestal with two glowing objects, one blue, one crimson, both pulsing like living hearts. Lyra appeared beside him, her silver glow softer now, her voice hushed. This is the last trial, human, the trial of choice. Kael's throat tightened. Choice? She nodded slowly, her eyes never leaving the objects. The blue will bind you to the station. You will become its guardian, eternal, your strength keeping it alive, but you will never leave, never return to your people. Kael's chest tightened as she pointed to the crimson glow. The red will destroy the heart. The station will collapse. My duty will end, and you will walk free, but the power here will be lost forever. Silence filled the chamber, heavy and suffocating. Kael stared at the two glowing hearts, his mind racing, his body heavy with exhaustion and doubt. Lyra stepped closer, her eyes searching his face. I cannot guide you here, human. This is yours alone. The station demands your truth. Kael closed his eyes, flashes of his journey burning through him, the endless trials, the pain, the voices that tempted him to quit. He remembered every fall, every rise, and the fire that had carried him forward. But he also remembered Lyra, her challenges, her teasing, her respect, her hidden sorrow. She had failed once, yet she had endured long enough to bring him here, to give him this chance. Kael opened his eyes, his gaze steady. If I choose the blue, I lose myself. If I choose the red, I lose all of this. Lyra nodded slowly, her expression calm, but her eyes trembling. Yes, human. And either way, something ends. Kael stepped toward the pedestal, the glow of both HFY. Earth's washing over him, one warm, one burning. His hand hovered between them, his mind screaming for an answer. What do you want, Lyra? He asked suddenly, his voice sharp. She froze, silver eyes wide, her lips parting but no words leaving. Kael pressed. All this time you tested me, pushed me, but what do you want? Her gaze lowered, her voice breaking. I wanted freedom, human. I wanted to be released from this endless cycle, but I could not do it myself. Kael's chest tightened, the weight of her words sinking deep. He looked at the crimson glow, destruction, freedom, an ending. Then at the blue, guardianship, sacrifice, a prison with honor. His heart thundered, sweat beating on his brow. Lyra whispered, Choose, Kael. The heart waits. Kael closed his eyes, breathing deeply, feeling the weight of not just his choice, but hers too. The silence stretched, the chamber humming softly, waiting. At last, Kael opened his eyes, his hand steady, moving toward the glow that felt right. Lyra's breath caught, her silver eyes wide as Kael's fingers closed around the choice that would decide everything. Kael's hand closed around the glowing heart, its energy rushing into him like fire and water combined. The chamber trembled, the walls flaring with light, the core reacting to his choice. Lyra stepped back, her silver eyes wide, her breath caught in her throat. For a moment, everything was silent. The galaxy itself seemed to wait. Then the light surged, flooding the room, wrapping Kael in waves of power. His body shook, his mind burning, yet his heart was steady. He knew this was the price, the final answer to all the trials he had faced. Lyra whispered, almost in awe, You chose. And now it becomes truth. The blue heart dissolved into him, its energy binding to his veins, filling every corner of his being. Kael dropped to his knees, gasping, feeling both strength and chains wrapping around him. The station pulsed, the platform stabilizing, the core glowing steady like a beating star. He realized then he had chosen guardianship, sacrifice, to remain here, keeping the heart alive. Lyra stepped forward slowly, her expression unreadable. You gave yourself to it, she said softly. Kael looked up at her, pain in his chest, yet a calm in his eyes. It was the only way. Destruction would have freed us, but it would have killed what was left of this place. Her gaze trembled, her lips parting. You chose to stay, even when you could have left. Kael smiled faintly, his voice hoarse. You said humans can't last, but we do, even if it means standing alone. For the first time since he met her, Lyra's eyes softened, shimmering with something he had not seen before, sadness, but also respect. She knelt beside him, her hand hovering near his shoulder. Then you are the heart's guardian now, Kael. The station breathes with you, its power flows through you, its future rests in your endurance. Kael's chest ached with the weight of it, but his spirit did not waver. Lyra whispered, I failed here once, but now I see why. It was never meant to be me. It was always meant to be you. The chamber pulsed again, visions filling the air, worlds in chaos, fleets at war, and a guardian standing in the center of it all, holding balance. Kael stared at the visions, the truth settling inside him. So this is what it wanted. Not strength alone, not mind alone, but a will that endures. Lyra nodded slowly, her silver hair catching the glow. And you proved it. The silence stretched and Kael finally asked, And you? What happens to you now? Lyra smiled faintly, though sorrow touched her voice. My duty is over. I was bound here until someone passed the trials. Now I am free. Kael's chest tightened, though he tried to hide it. Then you'll leave? She looked at him for a long moment, her eyes soft. Perhaps, but even freedom feels heavy when leaving behind what you respect. The chamber dimmed, its heartbeat steady, its energy calm. Kael rose to his feet, taller than before. Though his body trembled, he was no longer just Kael the explorer. He was Kael the guardian, chosen by something older than stars. Lyra stepped back, her expression unreadable. The galaxy will hear of you, human. They will know one of your kind became eternal. Kael exhaled slowly, his eyes glowing faintly with the station's light. Let them know, humans can endure more than anyone believes. Lyra gave him one last look, her silver eyes bright, a mix of pride and sorrow. Then she turned, her form fading slowly into the glow, leaving Kael alone with the heart. The chamber pulsed one final time, its voice whispering through him, not in words but in purpose, and Kael stood firm, knowing his choice would echo across the galaxy forever.